Hey everyone, it's Alice, and it has been a really long time since, I think, a tier list video that I've ended up making. I think the last one that I ended up doing was actually last year, and I think that one was one of the ones that I made with Nemesis. I was going to make one for MSI this time around, but I thought, actually, I'm not going to, mostly because the MSI patches, all the ones leading up to them, were relatively bland, and all of the metas that we were seeing in all the regions were, like, sort of whatever, and I just didn't think it would be that good. So with when 12.10 was announced in the durability patch, I thought, okay, summer's actually probably going to be pretty interesting, and the game is probably going to get changed up. But lo and behold, so far, we're not actually really seeing that much diversity in terms of meta picks. We are seeing some in LPL and LCK. We're seeing like some new champions, but for the most part, a lot of the drafts and a lot of the champion priority is still MSI-centric. So anyways, we're going to go through the tier list. So I have top, jungle, mid, AD, and support all made. And we'll talk about some of the more weird picks, as well as like just sort of placements of some champions. I'm not going to go through every single champion and every single champion's placement, because I think that would actually just take way too long. And I also understand that some people are going to be like, how does that champion function in that lane? Or what is going on with that champion? And this was the same stuff that people used to say to me about Ivern, and people used to say about Soraka, and, you know, they used to just say about other obscure picks, right? Like Cho'Gath with Senna down in bot lane, or just, I mean, an abundance of different types of champions. So I hope that with some of the more obscure picks that have been, you know, sometimes popping up in pro leagues, as well as just, you know, seeing how our other things have worked, that there wouldn't be as much eyebrows being raised to some of the champions appearing where they are. I will say that if you haven't watched my pro play stagnation video, that might explain why some champions that you do see in like the B, C, or even don't tiers continue to see pro play, and why certain players don't want to gravitate away from it. But what the placements that I have for the champions is meant to generally reflect is either an overarching standing of the champion in terms of League of Legends current power level and what type of value you can get from having that champion inside of a team composition, or just really sometimes there's going to be like fringe amounts of consideration for like how flexible is this champion and other types of stuff, or how far can this champion really fall behind and it still just doesn't even matter. Blind picks and other stuff like that is somewhat considered. It's not going to be obviously the end all, but I do think that a lot more champions are blindable than what people give credit for, just because people's perspective of punishes in certain matchups and stuff is not usually what actually happens. The other thing is that also team compositions and stuff, how well some of the champions mold together. So go through the top list. Go ahead.
Okay, well, I agree with Fiora and GP. I think Gwen should be an S tier, personally, not A tier. Malphite is obviously conditional, so I think it's fine to be an A tier. Let's see. Riven. Okay, Riven I actually don't 100% know, because I haven't played Riven much, but I know that Veiga actually likes Veiga actually likes Riven a lot. Into like GP, he thinks it's okay. Into Gwen, he thinks it's pretty good.
Yep.
I forgot what the other champion was. I remember there was a different champion. But I mean, Ornn obviously I agree is S tier. Kale I think is also S tier. Played Kale today in scrims actually. That was cool. That was fun.
Leaks.
I don't care, bro.
We're leaking everything here, you know.
I play every champion in League of Legends, bro. Like
that's true. That's true.
Matter. Okay. I mean, Malphite I agree in A tier. Vayne I think is conditionally a Swain. Swain actually is an interesting champion.
Swain is disgusting.
I think Swain is actually quite good into GP.
Yes.
I played that matchup quite a bit.
So have you done his like 3 builds? Have you tried all of them?
No, I literally haven't played Swain.
Oh, okay. So he has 3 builds. He has 3 different builds, and they're all different, like in terms of how they play. So I think that's interesting. So there's the Imperial Mandate Rylai Swain. There's the Liandry, like just standard. Liandry or Everfrost, and then there's Moonstone Swain.
Moonstone.
Because when you have Moonstone fully procced in a team fight, even if they have like Grievous wounds, Moonstone's like increase to healing is sort of invalidating it, because Riot nerfed Grievous wounds so hard, and then you're just perma healing.
I see.
So it comes online really fast in laning phase because it's 2,500 gold, and Swain is going to, you know, be like 12 CS a minute. So
yeah, you just need to
go. So you get it so fucking quickly, and then you just can't die in lane.
Well, the thing is, you have to buy tier. You have to buy tier as well if you're going Moonstone. No? Actually, I guess Moonstone gives you mana.
Moonstone gives mana regen. Yep.
Yeah. Because Swain has really big mana issues, but which is why Lost Chapter feels nice on him when I played it at least. Or you have to go tier if you're not playing Lost Chapter. The Swain I played GP against Swain in Korea against a couple times against different players, and they all went Ghost TP and they went Rylai's Rush with tier. And they just like Ghost ult and you literally can't.
You can't run away from them?
It's literally impossible. You can never run away from them unless you flash away and then slow them and they don't get in range. If they're ever in range and you don't have a dash, you are dead.
Right, then you're dead. That makes sense.
So it felt really fucking impressive at one item. Also, Rylai's is really cheap, so it's like similar idea to the Moonstone idea.
Right, Rylai's is cheap. And they're buffing it again, aren't they, in the future?
So you could go like, I guess you could go like Rylai into Banner of Command, actually, know anything about it. Oh, not Banner of Command, sorry. Fucking Imperial Mandate.
Yeah.
I always get that mixed up. By the way, how long is it usually in between LCK?
Huh? Usually it's 16 minutes between games, so it's almost back, actually.
Okay.
You there? The hell?
What? Yeah,
I said, it sounded like you died. Yeah, it's 16 minutes between games, so it's almost back.
Yeah, okay. Got it. I mean, all these champions, like, there's a lot of mages. I think mages can definitely be played way more in top lane. Aurelia, I really like. Actually, with maybe... I mean, I guess Aurelia has bad matchups into a lot of these champions, so maybe I wouldn't put her in S tier, but I really like playing Aurelia.
Oh, have you tried Rise top?
I haven't. No.
You used to, well, I mean, you played him in mid, right? So
I played him a lot in mid.
Yeah, you played him a lot in mid. I mean, that should be a quick.
Why do you think Rise top's good?
Well, I mean, I think top just makes the most sense, right? With like a lot of matchups that he can find himself in. He was always advantageous in like a lot of the top lane matchups back in the day, right? That was literally the reason he started appearing up in top lane. But in top lane, he is able to just sort of be left alone. I mean, yes, you can't do the shove and roam with your jungler, and like competitive and stuff. But the trade-off is that he actually gets matchups where he bullies, whereas in mid he gets matchups where like usually he's neutral, or he is, mostly just neutral, right? In most cases. So top lane, I think.
What matchups do you see him bullying?
I mean, he beats GP, doesn't he?
I think GP is close.
I think he beats GP. He beats Kale. I think he beats...
I think he'll be pretty good into Kale,
I think he beats Ornn in top lane. Well, he beats Ornn, but then Ornn scales. So it becomes a question of like... Well, not really a question. I would say that Ornn always outscales Rise. But he'll control Ornn really well. So...
I think he'll do things in early game, yes.
Yes.
I don't think... But my only issue is just obviously you have to find... Rise scaling is very weak, at least compared. Well, yeah. It's just whenever I played mid lane Rise, at least you play against Control Mage, and if you don't make something happen by 2.5 items, 3 items, you are worthless compared to mages. But yeah, Rise. I mean, the guy in chat said like Crucial said Rise doesn't beat GP anymore because since the shield got removed. I kind of agree. I haven't played it since like last year, but last year when I played GP as Rise, it didn't feel that Rise could really have many good trading patterns. Early game GP very favored,
right?
At like level 9 maybe you could argue like level 7, level 6, maybe like you can argue that Rise can like EQ, but even then it's like GP lands one barrel, he'll probably just win trades for the most part. I mean, it was a lot better of a matchup back.
It was better back in the day.
I mean, that was
GP also
really
wasn't as strong.
I actually feel like the durability buff like hurt GP, but I mean, like hurt GP's laning specifically because you can out-sustain him. I feel like a lot easier with champs like Aatrox and Aurelia. These sort of champions can actually out-sustain him in lane. It feels like to me, but maybe I'm wrong.
Z tier, this has actually remained a constant for a really long time. Fiora and Gangplank, I think, are just super broken. Gangplank might just be the best top laner right now in the meta. This doesn't really change. Fiora, a champion that is extremely mechanically demanding, also somewhat requires teammates to get how she's going to play because she's not able to eventually just like pivot in teamfight as easily as some of the other champions, but it's a champion that's very difficult to practice. If you have high ping and solo queue and you depend on solo queue, then you can't really get that great of practice on Fiora. I think that this is one of the reasons that Fiora only tends to appear mostly in eastern regions, and it's very rare to see western pro players end up picking her up. Warren, obviously, in S tier, I don't think that really needs an explanation. Have no idea why he disappeared from MSI and why he just wasn't really getting any love or attention. Riven, I think, is in an absolutely broken spot with the way that all of the bruiser items are right now, with the ability haste, how tanky and durable she can actually get, as well as just with the durability update in general. Kayle is actually getting picked pretty much everywhere, but she's being built really poorly. And one of the things that I think that we are getting to see is that even though Kayle's being blinded in some of the situations, she's actually not being punished the way that people would expect her to get punished. And I think that that's also sort of funny, and again, it goes against the idea that pro players have of current champions that are popular in the meta. I think other examples of this, like popping up in top lane right now, is like Sejuani, who's also on the list in the B tier. Gwen's there as well, because I don't think that anything that's happening to Gwen is really that problematic. So some of the other standouts that might be a little bit weird, Azir up in top lane. I just think Azir with the durability update in general, as well as how many good matchups he actually has, even against the champions that are up above him in S and Z. Azir's just strong. He's a very big lane bully, but the problem is that most top laners can't play him, nor will they take the time to learn how to play him, even though Azir actually has pretty good utility and function inside of the current meta, and he has winning matchups against a lot of the champions that you're seeing in AS and Z, even in top lane, and he's an extremely safe champion as well. So Azir's very good, just with the durability update, with the current state of mages, and with the current state of itemization. So I think that's good. One of the things that I did talk about with Fudge, and again, some of the tier lists that you see on here were talked about with various pro players. Trymbi for support, that's rogue support. Crowny, who is playing in LFL right now, or CrownShot. And then Challenger EOS Jungler was the person that was talked to about the jungle list. But anyways, Ryze top lane. So Ryze top, he can't do the push and shove stuff like you get out of him in mid lane, but I don't think that really matters because he has a lot of good matchups in top lane, and he's allowed to function a lot easier, and he's allowed to scale. Historically, Ryze was a top laner, and he rose to prominence mostly as a top laner in recent years before being brought back into the mid lane and then just being used for that, you know, push and roam type style. And so I think Ryze top is underutilized. Swain, I think, is absolutely broken since the rework. And I think that's pretty much that for those champions. The Kayn in the image is meant to reflect Rost, and it's very similar to the Riven items, because I think that Rost has a lot of good matchups for the champions that you're seeing on the list, just in general. Once you get the transform, Rost, I think, is one of the best champions inside of the game, and I don't think that it should be understated how good and valuable his utility actually is. Lilia tank top / like burn type build is a thing that's going on. You can actually go down a lot of CS, and as soon as Lilia gets her like 2-3 items, it doesn't really matter how far down she is in CS. It's almost very akin to an enchanter playstyle where if Lilia does fall behind, it's not the end of the world because the utility of her kit and her value as the game draws on is just really high, and she's very strong inside of team compositions. Zack's obviously on the list because he was one of the champions that wasn't really hit as hard by some of the healing reduction nerfs and stuff. With the durability update and everything else going on with him, he obviously got a lot of love. I think a lot of other champions here on the list are pretty standard. I think Zilean top lane, again, very akin to the Lilia. It doesn't really matter if you fall behind in CS. If you pick him into good matchups or you just learn how to play him, then you get access to having Zilean in the team composition. Brand's placement in both top and mid lane on the list is mostly due to the champion's itemization, as well as the buff that Riot gave him a couple of patches ago with the mono restore on minion kill as long as they were ablaze is super broken. It's really hard to move Brand out of laning phase, and he's mostly just very safe because he has EQ as a stun in the event that you're trying to dive onto him, or if you're trying to gank him or something, and then usually he can end up running away from that point, and he's also very safe because of his range. He also has pretty good movement speed and just everything else. Very underutilized pick. Olaf, I think his best role is top. I think that's pretty much it. AD Nico also underutilized. Some of the weird champions in B that I guess we will talk about, Sejuani has already been popping up inside of the LCK. but if you've been watching a lot of the Korean boot campers, you might have been seeing Sejuani there already. She's a very bursty, surprise, damage type bruiser that can get away with taking Ignite because of her ability to just use an ability to get away, almost as if it were Flash. She has a lot of good matchups up in top lane. She comes with a lot of burst. The problem with Sejuani is that once she hits like 1.5, 2 items, she's virtually the same champion for the rest of the game. She cannot really like push out or threaten anything inside lane. She's going to be perma-team fighting, and that is a weakness, especially because thematically she loses to so many champions in A, S, and Z tier, so it does just seem really bad. I think that Ivern in top lane is a little bit worse, mostly because of the durability update. Ivern is getting buffed in the next patch, but I'm not going to take into consideration what is going on with the next patch for Ivern in that regard. I think that Ivern in top lane functions a little bit worse than in mid lane, mostly because he only gets access to one buff in top lane, whereas in mid lane, he gets access to both buffs at a certain point in the game. And then obviously his ability to help out the jungler stacking the dragons is a really big threat inside of the games. Ivern really obviously wants to pair with very specific team compositions. If Ivern got a little bit more damage, or if he got a little bit more durability from a future patch, I would probably move Ivern up into A or S. The problem with Ivern versus S and Z tier champions, though, is that you then have to go on to define who is scaling harder than the other, and that's always an awkward question. So that's pretty much it for Ivern. Moving on to some of the other champions, Taric just got a lot of buffs. I think that Taric is not super awful. I think that you can pick him into some melee matchups in top lane, and he will win the laning phase. He is going to stop farming very well in the later stages of the game, and I do think that Taric, much like Sejuani, is a champion that once you start hitting like 2, 3 items, maybe Taric can actually go to 3 and it's still somewhat acceptable, that he then starts functioning as the same champion. I think Taric jungle is a lot better, mostly because of his 1v1, and it's just his clear speed ability and the sustain and a lot of the cute little tricks that he can do with like mid laners and other stuff. I think that Taric jungle is better suited, but I do think that top lane is a viable thing when you consider the flex. Other champions on here that might be a little bit weird or something, you'll notice that a lot of the AD carries are in C tier, but Draven is in B tier. I think that if you're trying to choose an AD carry for lane domination and to supplement some sort of a mage jungler or something like that, Draven just does it the best with the buffs that he ended up receiving, as well as the execute on 6. Makes for very easy solo kills at level 6 up in top lane, and I also think that Draven with his W, as well as step aside, is probably the safest of the AD carries up in top lane, even more so than Lucian, as long as you get really good at playing him. And I think that's pretty much it for a lot of the question mark things. Some people might be seeing some of the champions on don't tier, such as like Sylas or Set or, Volibear and things like this, which are cropping up. I think these champions are absolutely terrible. They start really... Well, Sylas, I think in top lane is like hyper conditional on so many factors on the opponent's team. I think that Sylas's itemization just in general is really bad right now. I don't think it makes any sense to put him up in top lane. I think in most cases he's going to have a lot of losing matchups. I just don't think Sylas is a very good champion in general. Akali, I think after the durability update, it was really painful for her in general. I think that you're griefing out of your mind if you end up picking her. There's just so many other champions that do really good with her. Mordekaiser, if the opponent has a mouse, it's like really hard for Mord to play because ultimately he's just a giant stats check champion. But I do think that in certain team compositions where the enemy only does have one scaling champion or something, if they're hyper conditional, then his Death Realm actually does have value. And I think that in competitive, there it could be a justified pick. Some of the other stuff that might be a little bit weird is like Victor in C tier or something like that, or Renekton in C tier. Renekton's actually very funny if we don't actually see him this summer. Renekton's gotten a lot of buffs. Durability update was actually somewhat favorable for him when you consider the arguments that people had for picking him in the past. It's going to actually make no sense if Renekton doesn't get picked by people this summer, especially because a lot of players are just generally very lazy, and Renekton is a champion that they already have a lot of practice on, so they shouldn't actually need to put too much practice into it. So that is it for top lane explanations and whatnot. We'll move on now to jungle. This is going to be another one that is really weird because the majority of champions that you are going to be seeing in pro play, I am already totally aware, are going to be champions that you are seeing in C and B tier for the most part, and I totally understand that. Udyr in Z tier. Udyr is one of the fastest clearers in the entire game. He got a lot of love from the durability update. He has a lot of different itemization paths that he can actually opt into to diversify his damage type depending on the team composition and what you want to do. There's very few junglers that can actually beat him 1v1, and a lot of the junglers that can beat him 1v1 in the jungle are not really that common or popular, or they're just ones that people don't actually play. Udyr's mechanics inside of team fights and knowing his rotations for his abilities is actually somewhat skill expressive. And I know that a lot of people think that sounds really dumb because they just perceive Udyr as just like a right-click champion that presses 2 abilities, but that's really not what's going on inside of teamfights. There's obviously certain people that are extremely proficient at playing Udyr, and anyone that watches like those champion queue games, obviously I'm referencing Malice, who is now a C9 content creator, would know how good and scary Udyr can actually be. Same thing ends up actually going for Shyvana. I think the champion queue games that he ended up streaming really showcased just how strong some of these champions were, as well as like Karthus. And I think it's really sad that not a lot of players outside of like the ERL, I guess, in Europe, where a lot of the players actually do seem to be looking for edges because they don't have the job security issues and all the other good jazz, do seem to be looking for like more champions and whatnot. I think Kindred, with the durability update, as well as her ultimate, the fact that she builds the Kraken Slayer and just the ability inside of the jungle to do really well against so many junglers right now, is very well positioned, especially because she asphyxiates really the ability to go some of the tank junglers because of how hard she just outright counters them. I think that even in some of the matchups like against Udyr and other champions that are popular right now in the meta, Kindred can actually opt into just taking Ghost and the matchup is actually playable, but you almost never see someone take Ghost on Kindred, even when you're watching them inside of solo queue. You are going to have some stuff like Kindred getting picked yesterday in pro play in LCK, but then having a totally grief build when it was getting picked, and it didn't look as strong as I think that it could have, but I do think that Kindred is an S tier pick, all things considered. As we move on, obviously Fiddlesticks, no one bothers to learn where he stands. This is the same exact reason for Morgana's placement on the list. Morgana still has a 315 or faster clear inside of the jungle, and Morgana still does everything that she was used to, or she was able to do before. As well as with the durability update, as well as champions that are popular in the meta right now, her Black Shield and even her damage because of the items that she ends up building and how she goes about her playstyle, Morgana is actually still good in the meta. No one bothered learning how to stand in order to do her clears, much like Fiddlesticks, and so she disappeared from the meta, even though she was still able to do really fast clears. The reality is that the players that knew where to stand with Morgana, even when she was really strong and really broken inside of the meta, actually ended up clearing so fast that they were seemingly nothing to do unless one of the laners on the enemy team was hard griefing, in which case Morgana could show up with a very early gank. This is actually one of the things that happens with Fiddlesticks in a lot of the games because of how quickly he can clear. Karthus is a champion that obviously he clears so quickly that he does arrive at the gank, and with the Wall of Pain, it is a lot easier to coordinate things than, say, it would be for a Fiddlesticks or a Morgana. Moving on into the B tier, Hecarim, obviously not in the best of states. Ornn jungle is something that I think is a lot better. With the Bommies buff, the durability update, Ornn in general, I don't think that Ornn will get to bestow all the ornaments to his teammates, but I do think it is pretty reliable and consistent that he will at least get to give two Ornn items over to his teammates, which is already insane value. But I think that it's really practical that he'll actually get 3 in a competitive game. Ornn's jungle clear is extremely healthy. He can permanently stay on the map with the changes that ended up happening into the jungle. Ornn is just an overall pretty broken champion. There's not a lot of champions that can actually fight Ornn inside of the jungle without him having some sort of a say. There are champions that can actually just power farm around him and they can go up in levels over him and whatnot, but he's still Ornn. His utility can't really be understated. With the changes to Bommy, the changes to Thornmail, things of this nature, I think that Ornn is just in a really good spot. Kayn, again, is meant to represent Ross tier, and it's not meant to represent Shadow Kayn, who I think has less value in competitive than Ross does, because I think that Shadow Kayn is also somewhat dependent on having other champions in the team composition in order to grant himself the lethal thresholds that he would need. Rammus could actually probably be higher on this list. I actually considered putting Rammus A. So if there is one change that I would maybe consider, it would be moving Rammus up into A tier. Mostly just because of the Bommies change, of the Thornmail change, of the durability update. Rammus just deals a lot of damage, and there's a lot of physical damage champions in the game right now that make Rammus very well positioned, and he ruined so many of the popular ADC champions. I am so sorry, by the way. This is one cut, so we'll see what's going on. So other stuff that you guys might be noticing is Xin Zhao. I could have had Xin higher, but I just don't trust people to draft Enchantress with him. What ended up happening is Xin Zhao in Spring Split, you guys might have remembered that Xin Zhao was actually a menace inside of the jungle alongside Gwen. What ended up happening, though, is after Olaf and the Death Dance Terror exchange and whatnot, and Olaf became less frequent of a counterpick to Xin Zhao, then what ended up happening is people tried to play Xin Zhao as a stat checker and just slot him into any team composition as a physical damage jungler. The problem is this is not where Xin Zhao excels. Because Xin Zhao excels by having enchanters on his team so that his utility can really shine inside of a team fight, not just his stat checking abilities to dish out damage. Because no one ever really paired him with enchanters, he ended up not looking as good as he does as a champion when he has an enchanter. I think there's a really big difference between like a Wukong having an enchanter on a team and a Xin Zhao having an enchanter on a team, mostly just because of Xin Zhao's reach as well as his ability to just be obnoxious in a continued team fight compared to a Wukong who is much more dependent on having his R ability available or something. So I have them in both the same tier. Diana can clear really fast. I have her in C because I think that she's dependent on other champions. I think that obviously champions that built pen items and whatnot feel a little bit worse now inside of the jungle especially. This is one of the reasons that I have Eve down from S into A. I think that Eve is still obviously really, really, really good, but there's just no real denying that, I mean, some champions just lost some of the ability to, you know, as quickly delete some people. It's not that they can't still delete people, because obviously they can. It's one of the reasons that Kiana is still actually really good. And I think that in instances like that, I just think that if you're looking for a really fast clearing AP jungler or something like that, there's so many of them that just do everything that Diana's offering and more without being so dependent on other specific champions being in the team compositions as well. And so that is the reason that Diana is in C tier. I think that some of the other obscure C-tier champions is like Mundo, and Mundo's actually here because of his ability to face off against the S and Z-tier champions really well, mostly due to his clear speed as well as the way that he can actually itemize. Mundo can kind of fit in as a no-theme champion. I think if it wasn't for this, I think Mundo would actually be a lot lower on the list because I do not actually give him credence to have any sort of like flexibility in his stuff. I think that some of the other champions that might seem really strange here, especially like Lee Sin and Volibear being really bad, they are, trust me. Anyways, Yorick in C tier. Yorick's very funny. His clears actually really suck in most cases. I mean, he can clear somewhat okay. Once he has Maiden, he's kind of like two champions, and I think that's actually kind of funny. Yorick's due to actually get buffs, but I think that I guess if you need a physical damage jungler that has two champions at level 6 and his objective control is absolutely insane, I think it's kind of funny. I do think that Yorick is legitimately somewhat funny if you're looking for a stat-checking AD physical damage champion in the jungle that has like this really weird playstyle where he can even send the Maiden on a solo journey in mid-game or late game with a laner or something like that and all the ghouls, and then Yorick can actually group and team fight as a jungler. I think that's actually really unique. I just don't think that anyone really considers him as a jungler. I do think that Yorick does have some weaknesses with like his W, as well as like Maiden AI and whatnot. He is set to get some buffs, but I don't think it's really that impactful. So, don't tier. So, I do include Bel'Veth on this because it is 12-11. Bel'Veth feels really, really, really bad. I say this because Bel'Veth will probably just outright either get CC'd, cancel, or even faster stat checked by most of the champions that you're seeing in A and above. She will get lapped in the jungle by Shyvana, Karthus, Lilia, Udyr. She will, and what I mean by lapped is that if Bel'Veth and the enemy jungler just keep permanently farming, they will accelerate several clear speeds ahead of her if the game's allowed to exist. Her clear is really hard. There are players that are able to do like the 306 or the 314 clear, but they are not very consistent. A lot of challenger players that I've talked to that have tried to play Bel'Veth cannot seemingly do those clears, and the people who self-admittedly have the videos of them on YouTube claim that they sat in practice tool for hours to learn how to do that clear. That is actually more complex and difficult than even Fiddlesticks or Morgana, or probably even the Zac clear. I'm not totally sure. What that ends up meaning is that Bel'Veth is always going to lose both crabs in most cases. I do not think there's any justification for 5 camping on her when she can 6 camp, just on the basis that like you can't be asked to learn how to do her clear. Even if she can do the clear and she can go to the crab, it doesn't mean that she can win the crab fight. Because now you have to ask yourself the question about what is going on in the two respective lanes that are near that crab, and what is the jungler matchup, because she is not going to 1v1 a lot of the junglers that are in the higher tiers, and she is just going to get stat checked. The other problem with Bel'Veth is that she doesn't feel anything from recipe items in most cases. If you recall with Bel'Veth, and this is one of her problems as a champion, she is dependent on the completion of the item itself, whereas other champions gain a lot of value from the recipe components. If Karthus recalls and gets 2 amp tomes, or Shyvana recalls and gets bombies, or gets double dagger, or longsword, or whatever, Kindred recalls and gets components to Noon Quiver, Udyr recalls and gets bombies or something like that, Fiddlesticks recalls and gets ability power, Graves recalls and gets double longsword, etc. Their clear speeds are noticeably increased, as is mostly their utility, even in 2v2s and whatnot. if Bel'Veth recalls and she gets daggers or she gets a longsword, she gets a pickaxe, because of the modifiers that are placed on her, her recipe items are not granting her the same effectiveness as other junglers are getting from recalls. This makes Bel'Veth's recalls really, really, really awkward. Her clears inside of the jungle, depending on what cardinal arrow she ended up using on her Q, also means that she might be susceptible to invades, or if she runs into the enemy jungler as she's walking away from somewhere, she might not even have retreat dashes available based on when she last used her Q or something like that. This all just makes her gameplay really, really, really weird. She is annihilating iron, bronze, and silver, boasting somewhere like 55, 56% win rate, but once you start going into Diamond 2, Master, Grandmaster, Challenger, Bel'Veth's win rate is extremely low, and everyone actually seems to voice the same exact concerns. I do think that most people are itemizing wrong on her, and they're taking the wrong runes on her. I do think that that could be something that is affecting it, but I do think that Bel'Veth sucks. So the more I play her, the more I think that if you have like winning lanes and the jungle matchup is okay, you could probably justify picking her if like her Q has a lot of value in the game. But outside of that, I'm not really sure what Riot's going to do. Although, with that said, she is set to get buffs. Rek'Sai sucks. Durability update, very bad for Rek'Sai. Rek'Sai is a jungler that is somewhat dependent on people forgetting Rek'Sai clear paths, clear routes, and then gank patterns, and then you end up with a Rek'Sai at one item who is doing nothing. And Rek'Sai doesn't matter if Rek'Sai gets to 2 items, doesn't matter if Rek'Sai gets to 3 items. The champion is just absolutely hot garbo, especially with a lot of the champions that are in the meta right now and not well positioned against a lot of the mid and AD carries in the meta, and gets ruined by a lot of the supports in the meta. Pantheon is a joke of a champion. If you play it, you should, consider refunding it. Kha'Zix, same exact thing. Kha'Zix clears not very great in terms of his ability to keep up with a lot of the other junglers. I think the durability update also ended up hurting him because you end up having to build him like Bruiser and all this other type of stuff. And I think at that point, when you're doing that on Kha'Zix, there's just no reason to actually be playing him anymore. Elise doesn't really need an explanation. I think Shaco doesn't need an explanation. We'll see what happens when he ends up getting his buffs. Nocturne, likewise, durability update really hurt him because a lot of people on Nocturne were building basically one offensive item and then going tank, which didn't make any sense. This is one of those pro player, like, turn your brain off moments where Nocturne's Dusk Trail was buffed on his Q, which meant that if you added more AD to him, you would get more value out of building offensive items, and then pro players just kept building tank on him, and it's one of those really funny things like Kai'Sa coming back into the meta or Kalista. Olaf, I do think that he can jungle. I would probably have him be C tier if you were going to pick him, but I think that's pretty much it. But I think that it just makes sense to have him in top and whatnot. All right, we move on into mid. I don't know how I'm doing on time for this, but I hope you are enjoying the video because I'm trying to cover a lot of the head scratcher ones. Speaking of head scratchers, I'm going to probably mauled reading some of the comments about this one. S tier, Anivia, Bard, Swain, Ivern, and Zilean. So again, Ivern does not really lose to anyone in mid lane. He can always do certain rune settings and starting items and stuff to mitigate any of the problems that he could have early on. He will always get to 6. The issue with Ivern is that while he can grapple with someone, sort of like in a boxing match, and he can just go even, he does win some of the matchups. Some matchups actually, they can't do anything to Ivern, and Ivern is just outright winning. Once he has Daisy at level 6, he's able to get priority on a moment's notice, or at least match it. And then Daisy at level 6 can also even threaten lethal in some instances, but not as often since the durability update. Ivern gets access to both of the buffs, and Ivern, with certain junglers, will almost guarantee you win every dragon early on. Ivern's just really scary, and his scaling cannot be understated when he's going to 1, 2, and 3 items, and all of his items cost less than yours, which means that he's allowed to function on a lower economy, which also means that he has no problem giving over resources to champions faster than any other mid laner would inside of the game. Ivern is just one of the best mids in the entire game. I think that he was probably top 2 mid laner at MSI, and no one plays him. No one's actually played him, I think, since ERL, since Cloud9 played him in LCS, and I think that it's obviously just a really sad thing. Zilean. Zilean's another one of those champions that I think that because of the way that the meta is turning out, Zilean just has so many good matchups. And again, much like Ivern, even if he goes down on resources, he doesn't have that much CS. The champion is just absolutely gigundo broken, and it is an omegalol difference when you have a Zilean on the team, as well as how well he pairs with so many of the champions inside of the meta. Swain is actually absolutely broken right now after his mini rework update, plus the durability thing that ended up coming in. Swain has 3 different itemization build paths, and Swain also has flexibility into multiple roles. Swain just really can't be understated. It's very difficult to move him. It's very hard to actually outright beat him, and he does demand that someone on the enemy team actually build Grievous Wounds, which can end up compromising builds later on in the game. Bard. So this is going to be the one that is really weird, and I'm not trying to upset anyone, but if anyone remembers roaming Pyke mid, well, this is kind of that, but on steroids, or actually it's more akin to roaming Janna top lane. So Bard in mid lane, because of his tunnels, he's able to navigate the map with his jungler a lot faster than any other roaming champion ever was. And again, it's because of his tunnel. The key factor that is different on Bard compared to roaming Janna top, roaming Lulu top, roaming Karma top lane, the key difference is that Bard gains EXP and damage from his chimes. The noticeable thing being the EXP. So Bard does not actually fall as far behind as a lot of the other roaming champions, and then because it's mid lane and because of his tunnels, he's able to navigate, again, so quickly around everywhere, and Bard naturally scales really, really, really well, even on a really low economy, again, because of his chimes. I don't think that anyone's really going to bother to learn it or anything, but I think it would be really almost wrong to not mention how strong the champion is as a roaming mid laner, but I just wanted to include it because I do think that it's one of the champions that got even better with the durability update, and I think with the whole chime stuff, it just doesn't make any sense why this has never been looked at or why no one ever tried doing this. He also doesn't really, he doesn't have to take Smite or anything like that. I don't think that is a necessary feature. He's also able to run like Spellbook, which I think is absolutely disgusting on Bard. Some of the other champions, they were running like Airy and whatnot. They weren't really running Spellbook, or they were running like Guardian and things of this nature. But Bard actually just gets away by running Spellbook, which is also another super disgusting thing that he can do. Anivia, I think, is the queen of mid lane right now. I think if you learn all of her matchups, she just wins so many of them. She scales so hard. Durability update, her itemization. She's just an absolute menace. Other champions that you guys might be seeing in here and scratching your heads at is Kassadin. Durability update was extremely good to him, as well as the buffs that he ended up receiving from Riot a couple of patches ago. Kassadin is very well positioned. If you look at all the champions in A and S, you'll notice that Kassadin actually looks at them and, you know, there's a twinkle in his eye. He's very excited. But also, if you looked at some of the other champions that are popping up and being very popular inside of jungle and even top lane, as well as, you know, supports and whatnot, Kassadin probably is just having a lot of fun. So I think that all of those things considered, Kassadin is well positioned and all that good jazz. Some of the Sapphire Crystal users you'll see on the list, such as obviously Cho'Gath and Malzahar. These are Sapphire, futures market abusers. Since the durability update, it's almost impossible to move them out of mid lane and prevent the futures market recall, which means they will always get the Lost Chapter edge over their counterpart, and that is just a really problematic thing that happens in laning phase, because once they have it, they basically are always even or ahead in priority, and both of them scale really, really, really hard. The Tryndamere buff, as well as durability update, can't really be understated, especially for mid lane. I think that it doesn't really need that much of an explanation. A lot of the other champions on the list that you'll end up seeing. Again, 80 carries, same thing as top lane for the Draven, Akshan, and Lucian explanation. I think that's going on there. You'll notice a lot of the don't champions. I think that they are pretty explanatory. The ones that maybe stand out to people is like Vex. Vex is really bad after durability update. Vex was always actually bad. If you just built resistances, or you built like a protect comp against her, you stacked HP or something, I mean, Vex could not get in one shot you. She was just always a terrible champion, but for some reason the meta devolved into something like a Ahri Vex for some reason, completely unknown to me, and I just don't even understand how that happened. But that is what's going on there. And then obviously LeBlanc here after durability update feels a lot worse as well. Ahri is probably another one that is maybe going to get people a little bit upset because she's in C tier. Don't get me wrong, Ahri is an absolute monster inside of solo queue, because Ahri is the modern Victor, the modern Syndra. It's really hard to move her out of lane. She has such a basic kit. She has self-setup with her R and her E for charm. She can like turn into like a pseudo-assassin and all this other stuff, but outside of that, what is she really doing? And I understand that that might sound really weird because it sounds like she's doing a lot, but she's not offering a whole lot. She's just offering like a safety net, and this is the same exact thing that I have TF here for, is that them being like stable and somewhat offering something of value just because you have a lot of practice on the champion and you're proficient with getting through the laning phase and doing the same patterns that you're accustomed to, does not have any representation of the champion's actual power level. I think Victor also just gets outscaled by a lot of champions that are above him on the list. Rise is set to get a buff, but until that actually ends up happening, doesn't really matter. And I think that is pretty much it. Renekton, I actually moved up into C tier almost, just because there are so many magic damage junglers. And again, the thing that I commented on the top lane tier list about Renekton. Move on to the 80 carry tier list. So this is the list that I talked about with Crowny yesterday on stream. Yeah, hey, what's up?
Well, not much. Are you doing the tier list?
Yeah, I mean, I already made them, but I wanted to go over them with you. I mean, I can always change the image before I actually make the video.
I think I saw a bit, but I didn't see fully.
All right, here, I'll share screen with you.
I mean, I think the top ones I agree with from what I saw, but I don't know about the placement.
Okay. So, all right, so ADC. So I'll talk about ADC with you, and then I'll talk about support with Trymbi. I'm gonna call Trymbi right after.
Yeah, sure.
Okay.
Okay. So is this like solo queue or overall?
Competitive.
Competitive?
Yeah.
I think wait. I think the thing with Lucian is that it's never picked alone, you know? Like Lucian is purely Lucian Nami. So I think I would put that higher into I think Varus should I think Kog'Maw is not second. I think
Oh, it's not ordered, by the way. Like left to right doesn't matter.
Okay.
Yeah.
I mean, then just put Lucian higher. I think you just put Lucian higher. The thing is, there has to be a way to like make a disclaimer that it's only with Nami, but I guess people would know. But I would put Lucian higher and wait, let me see.
That's the only thing? Well, Lucian's getting tagged. Wait. So, do you know what I mean? Lucian's getting tagged.
What does it mean?
He's getting nerfed.
Yeah, but so is Zeri, but I think the Zeri nerfs are placebo because
yes, they are.
They're nerfing.
They're placebo. Yep.
Okay, 20% on W, but her W is still gonna do like 700. So who cares? Like, it's so stupid. They just made her crazy. But he's getting a bit nerfed, yeah, and he's getting nerfed too on AD and his Q damage. So maybe
he misses. Yeah, he misses a lot of Q damage.
I mean. Okay. I think you hate Kalista a bit too much. I think she's actually good.
Dude, no, I do not hate her too much. She's so bad.
Okay, I mean, maybe it's because people don't play her counters. But, okay, I think one champ that is really underrated. Where did you put it? I think I would put Ashe into A. I think the champ is actually really good.
Really?
Honestly. Yeah, I think so. I mean, I think it just offers a lot to teams, you know? I think it's for sure higher than, for example, Vayne. I think there's like rare spots where you can pick Vayne on ADC. I think I would put Ashe in A. And yeah, Senna is pretty.
You know what? Actually, I guess you're right. Ashe is probably good with Kraken Slayer.
But the thing is, you can play her Blade like Kraken on hit. You can play her Mandate like you can play her Lethality.
I didn't think.
She actually has a lot of playstyles, you know, like Varus.
Yeah,
but why do you have Varus? Why do you have Varus so high?
Yeah, Varus is
high. You think it's actually like really good?
On hit Varus, I think is broken. Yeah.
Really?
Yeah, they buffed him so many times. And
yeah,
now,
I know they did. But
so they buffed him a few times, and now Kraken Slayer is like the best item because of the durability update. And because of his...
of course.
Yeah.
But why would you like pick him over like other champs, no? Like over Kog'Maw, for example. Do you think like you know what I mean? I feel like there's not many spots where you're like, oh,
Varus like really go attack here. Speed Varus over Kog'Maw. So
yeah,
one of the I mean I guess you could just say that Kog'Maw requires more. Well, I mean I don't know. I think Varus is more loose in a draft than Kog'Maw is. Wouldn't you say?
I mean probably yeah. I mean the thing is Varus still has like other builds to play. You know the AP build and stuff. But
AP Varus is actually not bad right now. I think with the durability update and so many tanks.
Yeah.
AP Varus is good.
I don't think it's actually. I think people just don't like playing him because he's like kind of. Or I don't know how to describe it. I think the main reason people don't play him is because I think if I had this theory that if his movement speed got buffed by 5, I think this champ would be perma pick. Because I think he's super slow on the map. Let me check his movement speed. Maybe I'm wrong.
I think Varus is 325, yeah.
No, he's 330. But let me say.
Oh, is he 330?
I mean, he's same as Kog'Maw. Okay. I don't know. He just seems so slow. It's because. I think you don't have a space for zeal items. So that maybe that's why you feel slow. Because you have to go Blade, because it's like super strong.
Right.
And then you go like Blade Kraken or something, and then you probably go Guinso. So you're just kind of slow. But of course, if he can hit, he's really strong. But I think, yeah, Zeri for sure A. I mean, the only ones I would change is I would move Lucian and Ashe up to A.
But you agree with everything else?
I mean, you value Seraphine that high, but with what, overall, or only with like Senna or
I don't
or
so
just
the tier list isn't totally like in a vacuum, right? Like obviously Seraphine can be support and mid lane in the current patch, right? But I'm not gonna like really hard zone in on the flex. But yeah, I mean I think Seraphine's just really good because she's good against she's good against Varus and Kog'Maw in general. So, and then she's the champions that beat Varus and Kog'Maw, like, thematically, she's good with. So, like...
I mean, I don't think it's bad to have her there. I think it's okay. S tier. When you have 5 S. I mean, the only ones I would move up is Ashe and Lucian, and maybe I would move Varus a bit down. Because I think he's... yeah, that's the ones I would change, probably.
Okay.
I think everything else is good. I think Twitch is OP, Zeri is OP, Senna is broken. And I think the Senna nerf on live, or the one where they nerf her Q slow, I don't think it matters at all.
That doesn't do anything, right?
Because they don't realize what makes the champ OP, right?
Right.
It's not her Q slow, it's just the fact that she can be played with like everything. But yeah, Zeri is broken. Maybe Ezreal. I mean, you said the placement doesn't matter, but maybe you have a bit too many in A, you know? Because shouldn't A have less champs than B, or not?
No, I think it just comes down to, like, what champions would you value legitimately having in the game in, like, a lot of different circumstances.
Okay, then I think for sure, like, I think Aphelios Jinx should be lower in this meta, because durability.
Yep.
Like, I think Aphelios right now is really bad before buffs. But he's getting buffed, like, a lot in stats.
But you know, that's actually it's a pretty good point. I think he has a lot of bad matchups into.
Oh yeah, his matchups are super bad.
Yeah, you know what? Yeah, you're right. Like as I'm thinking about it,
yeah. And Ashe up, sure. Ashe and Lucian, I'd put them up, and I put Aphelios Jinx down. If you were talking purely about marksman.
Yeah.
And Swain, I think the thing is, if you have Swain in A, he has bad matchups into most of the top picks you have. You know what I mean?
He does, like, but I think he has good matchups into all the ones below him, so it's like hard to move him out.
Oh yeah, he does. Yeah, does. I mean, I think for sure I would personally move Vayne, Aphelios, and Jinx to B, and I would put Lucian and Ashe to A.
I have Vayne in A because of top Vayne.
Yeah, but that's not AD, no?
No, I know that, but I factor this stuff sort of into their placements. You know what I mean?
I mean, yeah, it's for sure a flex, but I feel like when you flex, most of the time you do not put it AD because she just has bad matchups into like everything. But I think for sure you should put Ashe higher because I think.
Yeah, I moved Ashe. I moved Ashe and I moved Aphelios.
Yeah, okay.
You're right. I didn't think enough about the Aphelios thing. I mean, Aphelios for sure is good if the opponent's like Aphelios is a good pick if the enemy team is drafting bad. Like hard engage and other stuff, then he is good.
The thing is, imagine people like if people draft like hard engage or like full going.
Yeah, exactly. Then Aphelios is insane.
Like,
yeah, he's one of the best ADCs in the game. Right.
Yeah, but
like, I think with you're right. With the way that people should be playing,
right? So
I agree.
Like I think like if you pick very early, there's not much that can fuck you, especially now that they gave her like so much damage on W.
Right.
You can play like into most things. Varus can play multiple builds. Then I can play with like 20 different champions. Twitch is also pretty much good. I mean, I think it's good. Anything else? Wait.
Saving this.
I mean, yeah, I think. I mean, Ezreal A, yeah, that's pretty. But don't you think? Soraka got nerfed, didn't she? Like they nerfed her on the durability patch. Like,
no, they So they re-nerfed Grievous Wounds, and then they buffed her.
Oh yeah, true.
They buffed her R.
Oh really? Again?
Yeah, they buffed her R. So I think she's still.
Sivir is that low. But Sivir is like really like there's no reason to play her.
Yeah.
But she's getting reworked or whatever. I mean, I'm telling you, like, honestly, I think Kalista should be higher because, like,
And the
build is
durability
strong.
patch, you want her to be higher.
Yeah. Yes, because durability patch makes fights longer, so she's actually not bad. Like, I really think it's not as bad as you think. I know you like hate her, but I don't think it's as bad as. I think for sure some champs
Okay.
are way worse than her.
Here's my issue with.
I'd have her at
Do you
least
think that you can really blind pick her if people know how to draft?
Okay, so what would you do against it? Ash or what? Like long
I mean,
range?
Ashe is really good against her. I mean, there's supports that just ruin her, right? Have you ever played Callista versus Nasus on Ironically?
Nasus? Yeah. I mean, I saw Nasus a few times. I mean, I remember I was next, like, when we were in Korea with Limit, he was playing Nasus, and
Yeah.
like enemy Kalista was bad, and then he got frozen guard, and he couldn't play, you know. Pretty funny. It was pretty funny. Yeah.
There's so many champions where I think she just can't play. But just,
Yeah, but the thing is, are you assuming like meta that teams play draft or like perfect world?
yeah, that's true. I mean, yeah, that is true.
Because I'd have her at least B. If I assume how people draft, I'd put her B. And I would put, yeah, Ashe A. I would put Jinx Aphelios B. Vayne B. That's pretty much it. Lucian A. And that's it. I think that then it's good.
Ow.
You like what? You wait, but you like Cho overall or only
So
Senna?
Cho, yeah, I mean, I think Cho has a lot of good supports, and I think he can go. Cho, so with the durability update, I think that there is literally no way to stop him from the 4-minute lost chapter. With the, I think I was talking about this with Trymbi. I mean, I'll probably talk about it with Trymbi next, but I think that with the durability update, he has like, you cannot stop him from getting the 4-minute lost chapter. I think it's impossible.
No, I understand that, but also all of the ADCs that are meta kind of build Blade early, so it's good into him or not. But what would you play when? Which supports?
No, I mean, I think that you can itemize like fine against Cho, but I mean, at the same time, if he has Everfrost and you don't have Flash or so, like, he can just always one-shot.
I mean, he's probably good into immobile champs. Like, I'm not denying that.
And he's really good at. So if they try to like just protect Kog'Maw, like if Twitch gets held, that like, I mean, he threatens to one-shot literally all the champions above him if he just lands one Q.
Oh, they're actually playing right now. They're playing Seraphine ADC and Ashe support in LFL.
Really? That's fucking cool.
Yes.
That's actually fucking cool.
Into MF Renato. I mean, it's good into Renato, definitely.
Yeah.
But yeah, like those are my chances. I think Aphelios Jinx lower. I think Jinx right now, with durability, like she always wants to play for resets and like she doesn't like playing against tanky champs, right?
Right.
So right now Twitch is just better than her at everything. You want Hypers or Kog'Maw. So I think she's like B tier for sure. They also buffed all champs HP and they nerfed hers by 60.
Right.
So I think she's lower. And then Aphelios, yeah, the one I said before. But otherwise, I think your S tier, like Z tier, I think Senna, yeah. No, I think it's good. Wait, let me see. Yeah, Kai'Sa is bad. Caitlyn is bad. Yeah, I don't think this is bad. I think this is good. Good list. I mean, I'm not sure about Soraka because the thing, like, I mean, I guess with those picks you need carries elsewhere, but yeah, I guess that's fine.
I mean, it really depends what you're choosing, like mid and top. I mean, top got some love in the sense that like Olaf's in top lane right now. Like that's obviously very good, right? Kale's in the game a lot, right? So Soraka.
No, that's true. Kale is picked constantly. Yeah, that's true. I mean, I think this list is good. I think it's pretty good.
So Senna, with the change to the minion soul drop count thingy, Senna is probably the best AD carry in the game because she's able to, again, go AD carry Senna, she's able to go fasting Senna and support Senna. There's a difference between fasting Senna and support Senna. Support Senna will always stay support for the entirety of the game. She will never start farming. Fasting Senna will eventually start farming and will eventually take over that role. And those are the two key differences. Fasting Senna was not able to exist because of the soul drop rate. So when the soul drop rate was actually removed from the game, everyone continued, casters alike, I believe, continued to call her Fasting Senna, but she was never Fasting Senna at that point because she would never begin farming. But she's now able to do that again. Varus is here because Varus has two builds. He has attack speed Varus, which is something that received some buffs from Riot in recent times, as well as he builds Kraken Slayer, which is the best ADC item right now. And he has AP Varus, which is going to flourish, and if the the situation occurs where the enemy team has a lot of tanks on the enemy team. AP Varus is absolutely broken. Twitch and Kog'Maw, I do not think need an explanation. With certain enchanters, you learn how to get through the laning phase. They're absolutely insane. I think that the Zeri nerfs are not going to be big enough, and then Seraphine is dominating in a lot of places right now, and she just pairs with so many meta champions. Ziggs is obviously here. I don't think he really needs an explanation. Soraka does not really, I think, need an explanation. I think AD Carry is by far and away her best role. And then you have Karthus, Swain, Cho'Gath, Ashe, etc. I think Ashe, if you end up building her Kraken Slayer, you follow up with like Phantom Dancer or something like that, you continue that route. I think Ashe has a lot of good matchups inside of the meta, and she's able to offer her team a lot of value. I do think that Cho'Gath, again, with the durability update, there is no way for almost any marksman combo, you know, with bans being considered and like certain matchups and stuff, to really guarantee that Cho'Gath cannot get the 4-minute futures market, teleport back down to bot lane, and from that point, he's golden, and then his lethal threshold on almost every single marksman is disgusting. If he lands a Q, almost every single champion on this list is dead. You know, especially because his items cost less than all the other AD carries, but Cho'Gath does want certain champions on his team when he's going to be played from that role. B tier, Tristana, Draven, Lucian, Cassio, Brand. I don't think these things really need that much explanation. I don't think that Draven's in a great spot right now from the marksman role. I think that he benefits a lot more when he gets to the base levels and when his R has a lot of value that he can reliably utilize it with, which is obviously solo lane Draven. I think Tristana maybe could have gone a little bit higher. The reason that I have Brand and Cassio a little bit lower here compared to in mid and top lane and whatnot is mostly because of the base levels. And so there's that. Yasuo, Kai'Sa, Xayah, I mean, these are champions that are getting picked and often built even incorrectly. I just do not think that they stand really a chance for the reasons that they're being picked against a lot of the S and Senna. You know, Senna with a Z, I guess. Zena, there you go. I don't think they really stand a chance in an actual properly drafted team composition, but you just see them getting randomly picked for the same exact reason that I talk about in Pro Player Stagnation, which is a video that was actually received really well by the public that I ended up making about 2 months ago. A lot of the reason that when you look at a lot of CB and other types of champions and whatnot, why do they keep popping up in Pro Play? All the answers and more in obviously that video. And then these champions I think are all jokes. CrownShot did think that Kalista has more value and could be moved up to C. I just really don't like Kalista, and I think that everything about her, I think with like drafts as well as like the type of support champions that can cripple her, I just don't think that she's very good, and I also think there was no justification for her randomly resurging inside of the meta right around MSI. Move on to support. This was gone over with RGE Trymbi on stream as well. I don't know if the editor is actually going to include this in the video.
Hello.
Hello, welcome to the Insane Asylum. All right, I'm sharing screen.
Oh shit. Okay. Oh, yeah. What do you want me to know?
All right.
What do
So
you-
I just went over ADC with Crowny.
Yeah, I was listening, but yeah.
Okay. Oh, you were watching it. Okay. All right. So
Yeah, I
now
was trying to
we-
follow.
we go over support.
Oh shit. Why not?
All right. Here we
Ah.
go.
Okay.
All
I
right.
mean, wait. I have ADC in 2 days. I should say as less as possible, technically.
Oh, you have a super
Oh.
week, right?
Yeah, we have a super week, and it's actually quite banger games actually.
Wait, really?
Nice
Let me see what
games.
it is. Let me see what it is.
Yeah, I think it's like G2, Fnatic, and Madlaus. Pretty nice week, I would say.
Ooh, Rogue plays
So-
Fnatic. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, it's their first game. And
Fnatic
yeah.
G2 in
Yes.
Mat. Wow. Okay, we got some. All right. Okay.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
So I'm just gonna chill and like try to say something, but so I'll try to say like something, but
Okay, so
you
how
know
about
it is.
how about I just ask you the ones about the ones that I'm gonna, or I just ask you about the
Yeah,
things I'm gonna
sure,
have to
go
talk
for it.
about in
Go for
the
it.
video. Okay,
Yeah.
so one of the talking points that I'll probably bring up in the video. Do you agree that like Leon and Nautilus, like Galio, Alistar, etc., all of these champions are worse now with the durability update?
Yeah, percentage-wise for sure. If you look at percentages, they got cucked like pretty hard. So
Okay.
they for sure should be worse than they were.
Okay. All right. So that's one of the talking points. Another one that will probably be brought up just because they'll see it in the same tier is have you ever played Malphite?
Oh, didn't get to. I think I played like one game, but it was maybe with Senna. So it's
Okay.
like a bit
Yeah,
a bit different.
that's
Sorry.
its own thing. Okay. All right, then we won't talk about that. What do you think? So I actually have Ashe support at B because I think in a controlled environment, you're not going to get griefed by your teammates. And I think that you will get to...
Yeah, in Halo when the games are stable, she's actually not bad.
Yeah.
Like, she actually does something, you know,
Yes.
if you're good. Like,
and she's
you
flexible.
actually make a... I think there was like a time in EU when... I think last year there was like a time in EU when people played it for like 1 week, 2 weeks.
Right.
Like, everyone was trying her out, so... She was fine at that time, and now she's for sure a bit better.
Right. Okay. All right, that's cool. I also have... So this one might be weird for you. Have you ever seen Zoe?
Oh, I saw Kaya playing it. I mean, yeah, she's really nice. Like, if you pair it with something good and matchup is fine, you can make a little bit of things happen. I think she's pretty fine.
Yeah. I think
just
Zoe
concept-wise
is sort of like Xerath and some of those other champions, where she only really needs like 1.5 items, and then her utility is just her bubble. Right? And she just spits it out over and over and over. And Zoe doesn't need to go past level 13 in most games, which supports don't go past 13. But like Zoe just wants bubble and she wants paddle star. She doesn't need anything else. So her early lane power is disgusting with bubble, and even kill setup for junglers. Right? Flash bubble is like very easy. Bubble with alcoves is like funny. I just think she's good, right? With all the summoners as well that she can steal in early laning. So I think that's fine. I think Zoe is hard, and so we won't like see her from most supports, but I've always thought that she's good. But she just loses to too many of the champions in AS and Z. So it's like hard to put her higher. Okay. So yeah, Zoe's one that I was going to put up there. Brand, I think, is actually very good right now, especially because he can be played ADC in mid and top. Because the mana buff, do you know about that?
I didn't see the buff, but he always before that even he was fine. Like he was really fine support. He was very obnoxious, like in terms of damage. So I for sure can agree with that.
Okay, yeah. The mana buff for his laning is when he kills a minion with an ability, or as long as the minion was on fire, which is his passive.
Yeah.
He gets 20 mana plus back per minion.
Oh, what the fuck?
Yeah, it doesn't make sense. So he eventually hits a point where he's not losing mana on the wave.
Yeah, sounds really good.
It's so stupid. But then all the items that he has right now, it's just he's very, very good. Okay, so Brand is probably something. Gnosis, I already have a video on it, so it's sort of like whatever.
Yeah.
I have Rumble there, which I think is like fine.
I mean those are like fine. I would say they're B. Yeah.
Okay, so A tier. Gragas. So the Gragas buffs are huge. I think like the flat.
Yeah, everything is nice. Yeah.
Gragas buffs are massive.
Sure better.
The ones that people might like raise their eyebrows at that I'll talk about in the video is probably Anivia, Morgana.
Is the TP one? Is the TP one or normal one? There was like a TP. There was like a one trick I remember who was playing TP.
You mean the teleport Anivia, right? The teleport Anivia.
Yeah, this guy's crazy, man. This guy is crazy.
That guy's funny.
I think I played one game of Anivia like 2 years ago. The champ is like, if you can play her, obviously, it should be good, I think. Yeah, this champ is like obnoxious. this champ is, Yep. Okay. Yeah, and then it's fine for it to be A.
Yep. And then all right. So I think A is fine. Do you see anything in A that you think is weird?
Maybe the thing is that you put Taric in S. I think you should put it A, even though he's obviously nice after buffs. You should put him A because he's losing to a lot of champs that you put in Z and Z and S.
Yeah. Okay. That's actually, dude. I feel like literally this is the Affilio situation I just had. You're totally right. You're totally right.
It's like either A. I mean, I wouldn't put him. I mean, it depends, but I think you can put him A, and it's understandable after the buffs. Yeah. Just don't put him S, because obviously I know what you mean by putting him S, but it's like I don't think he's able to like deal with some champions for sure.
All right, got it. So Rogue's playing Taric this week, guys. That's.
Oh, dude. Yeah, it's okay. It's okay.
All right, Rogue's playing. All right, that's great.
Don't worry about it.
Like I got it. It's totally fine.
But Janna S, I like it. Janna S, I like it.
John is so disgusting. I was talking about this on stream.
already has my experience. Yeah, she's very nice.
She is so stupid. Okay. Xerath, I think, is like obvious. Like, he's the best mage support, and he beats so many champions. So
Yeah,
mean,
deals a lot of damage on
yeah.
one item. It's really hard. Really
Okay,
hard.
and then Senna Yumi at Z, because I do think they're both broken.
Yeah, can agree.
Okay.
For sure.
Wonderful. All right. That was.
Let me think if there.
Yeah.
Let me think if there's anything. Honestly, I think maybe you could put Rakan A as well after the buffs. It's hard. It's a bit better right now than it was. I know what you mean by Rakan B, but he actually now can lane like better than he used to. Like it's harder to get him off the line, which is pretty good for a champion to be. So you could put him A, but it's like not needed, you know.
Okay.
But outside of it,
let me ask
see.
you that one. Sejuani.
Yeah,
I have
go.
Sejuani in B.
Oh, but it's like a Sejuani rally or just Sejuani?
So I think Sejuani is kind of the new Nautilus. Well, alright. So Sejuani's all-in damage at level 3 is disgusting. I don't know if you've ever played it, but it like the kill threshold.
She does a lot of damage.
She deals a lot of fucking damage at level 3. And then she also has a really far approach. Like she can approach from really far away, like off the screen, right? She can dash in and then throw R. I think Sejuani, because of her percent damage and just like, you know, the amount of CC and everything that she comes with, I think she's like the new Nautilus Leona, but no one plays her.
See, okay, I'm on it. Don't worry.
All right, you're on it. I mean, it's totally. I mean, she will literally. She can legitimately nuke all the enchanters and everyone in a way that, like, I think Leona and Nautilus just can't. Right? Nautilus, you could play around it by like where you're standing, but Sejuani goes through everything, right? But also her shit comes out faster and it deals more damage. So, I think her kill threshold is higher than Nautilus, Leona, Galio ever had. It comes out quicker, the speed at which it, like, she throws out all her damage. And then at level 6, she's disgusting. So, I just think she's a better version.
Okay, I have 2 days. Okay.
You have 2 days? Let's fucking see it. Like,
actually, could you... You need to do one thing.
Just go fucking electrocute. Also... Just go electrocute. Do it up.
Okay, like... Okay. I see where is it coming. Okay. You need to also, honestly, you need to add Zeri in tier. In my opinion. You should try to play one AP Zeri game. It's really fun.
AP Zeri support?
Yeah, it's like Apocalypse used to play it, but now it's like so fun.
You're trying to get me killed.
Legit. It's so fun. Just put it. Be honestly, man. It's so fun.
Okay.
But I
can't add it just because I don't know about it. You know.
Yeah, you just you need to be careful because it makes your whole team go mental. But it's fine. It's fine.
Okay.
Yeah. I took a shot like 3 days ago and it was worth it. I have to be honest. It was a pretty fun game.
Okay. That
but
sounds,
yeah, outside of it, everything. Like I can't really say too much, but
I know.
It looks good. It's a good tier list,
Okay.
For sure.
All right, cool. All right, Trymbi, I will let you go.
Okay, bye. Enjoy your day.
Thank you so much. Yep.
Bye.
All right, bye. I, as a anti-anxiety measure, I'm talking about more champions than I wanted to, but I think this one maybe is going to be talked about a lot less. Durability patch update, Nautilus, Leona, Alistar, etc. These combo hit champions all took a really, really, really big blow in that regard. I think that Braum could be a little bit higher than them. I think a lot of these champions cannot actually be blinded without getting punished. I think enchanters do reign supreme right now. I think Blitzcrank is probably also somewhat okay. A lot of other champions like Nasus already have an entire video. He's been played a lot in the ERLs, and he fares very well against a lot of the very strong AD carries right now. Pyke, I do not think is knocked out of the woods yet. Anivia, extremely difficult to learn. Zoe, another champion that is very, very hard to learn, but I think that when you learn her in certain matchups, talked about that with Trymbi on stream. Ashe support, you guys might be seeing it, I think in a controlled environment where your teammates aren't griefing, they're not losing their mind because they have an Ashe support. Once you get into mid-game, her utility with her W, her Q, her E, and her R cannot be understated. She's a really strong champion. Sejuani I have here because I think that she is the Neo version of Nautilus and Leona. Her level 3 all-in with Electrocute is absolutely broken. She will still 100 to 0 you, and then with her 6, as well as how much reach she has, I just think that she is probably set to become the new Nautilus Leona. That is what I imagine will end up happening, especially because she has different runes that she can take. Sona, Janna, Soraka, Xerath, I don't think these really need that many explanations. If the enemy picks an enchanter, you pick Sona. It's almost smooth sailing in most instances. If the enemy picks Yuumi or something, you pick Sona. Very smooth sailing. And then Senna, again, cannot be understated. I think Senna and Yuumi are the creme de la creme right now. Janna is very funny because Janna got nerfed because of top lane Janna, and then everyone forgot that Janna was an absolutely broken, absolutely insane champion. I think that is it. I know that I spent less time on support than the others, and I apologize for that. But it's because Nuggery is returning today. I am late. Yeah, this took a long time. I'm late. Yeah. Okay. Well, see you later.